Welcome, friends and future colleagues, to a new and reinvented Law Guess. You have come to the most interesting legal platform for talk shows and more. We give you candid talks with people who you look up to. I'm your host for today, Muskan Naran. I'm a second year law student from DY Patil University. We have with us today Nipun Bhatia sir, who is the president of strategic management at Legal League Consulting, which is a management consultancy for the global legal industry. Law firm management and strategy planning have been the areas of his specialization since 2010, and his practice also includes exploring mergers, acquisitions, uh, alliance and tie-ups among law firms in India, helping law firms and law departments in India structuring themselves, and many more. He holds a postgraduate certification in Indian and international intellectual property rights from Indian Society of International Law. He is also a qualified chartered accountant and serves on the advisory board of several educational institutes and upcoming student initiatives and NGOs. So, wow. So, I had a fun time introducing you, sir, today, and it's been a long introduction, I think. So, thank you so much for being on the show today and, giving your time on a Sunday.
Absolutely my pleasure, Muskan. Absolutely my pleasure. I'm glad to be with you.
Thank you so much, sir. So, sir, I was wondering that, so the standard question that we always ask is, why did you decide to do law?
Muskan, it's rather interesting because if you'd asked me why did I choose law, law was plan B for me. I had initially enrolled for my chartered accountancy education course, and somewhere in between while I was pursuing, I was at the intermediate level. I started feeling a lot of pressure because when you hear a lot of stories around you that there are people who do not qualify as chartered accountants, the passing percentage is pretty low, and a lot of people have left it midway. There's a lot of negativity that surrounds you. So eventually, what happened was law came to me as an option of plan B to kind of have a thought that, at the end of 3 years, at least I'm going to have a short degree in my hand, which wasn't the case in the chartered accountancy course, because a lot of people would say that you would not even complete it, and there are so many people who leave it midway. So law started actually as a plan B. But once I started taking my classes, once I started reading the subject, it was so intriguing. I thought, this is where I'm going to be making my career into. I loved reading about law. The field itself intrigued a lot. But there was another setback, in the place, because when I started interning, and as I interned with an independent practitioner, is when I decided, when I was sent to court, I kind of figured out that there's a lot of suffering in the world, and I'm going to be perpetually seeing people suffer in courts, etc. So there was a lot of factors that kind of had a softer play. So initially, I wasn't very sure in the sense that whether I'm going to be practicing CA or law, or neither for that matter. My heart kept telling me that you have to be associated with these fields, but not in the traditional way. And I'm so glad I listened to my heart. I keep telling all the people, please listen to what your heart tells you. Those are the signs you have to watch out for. So what started as plan B has now become my ecosystem. I have been in the legal industry for about 10 years now, and absolutely enjoying the journey.
Great, sir. So, sir, you've done your LLB from DU. So, how was the environment doing it in DU, and the whole law system there?
So, a couple of things, Muskan. I did it from Law Center 2, which was at that time kind of considered to be the stepchild, because CLC and the campus Law Center and Law Center 1 used to be the premium ones because they were in the North Campus, and this was more in the evening batch, where a lot of government officials came who used to do part-time as an LLB, because they wanted better department moves and better career options. A lot of doctors who are doing LLB with us at that time. But two changes happened at that time. I'm so glad I took that course, because I enrolled in Law Center 2. My reasons were because I used to pursue my CA education in the day. So I used to reserve my evenings for my legal education. But the fact that you would be in the company of such learned people, some of the government officials were so learned, the doctors were so learned, the kind of environment it gave and the kind of knowledge exchange happen over there, I think that played a great role in me deciding to make a career in the field of law. So contrary to what the popular beliefs are, that the Law Center 2 was not that great in terms of education, I completely felt that had it not been for Law Center 2, I would have not pursued law that aggressively as I'm doing it now. And the second change that happened from the year when we were enrolled in Law Center 2 was every time the question paper and the syllabus used to be different for all three centers. That was the year when the syllabus and the question paper and the examination became uniform for all the three centers. So there was no kind of discrimination in the sense that, oh, Law Center 2 has a better pass percentage because the papers would be easy or the curriculum was easier, nothing. It was a uniform curriculum. In fact, when we used to write our exams for all the 3 years, we used to go to North Campus and sit with students from LC1 and CLC to give our exams. So I think that change also played a great role in kind of changing the whole perception about Law Center 2.
So how have you been as a student? If we say after 12th, the whole range of you've done a lot of stuff. So how were you as a student?
See, I was always, I wouldn't say I was a topper, but I was always noticed. I was, even when I was in school. So the journey from class monitor to vice head boy to head boy of the school, which was there. The positions of responsibility always excited me. So I think that kept me going. Then when law happened, I wouldn't say that I was again a class topper, but I think I enjoyed the process a lot. The very fact that, when I was doing my BCom or when I was in school, it was still a lot of academic based study. With law, we were exposed to the concept of studying real life cases, precedents for the first time. And that kind of changes the whole, the way you look at a subject, because it is that when you understand that law is basically nothing but an applied science. Like you would read the statutes, but the application of it comes only in real life. So until and unless you're aware of the cases, the real life situations, you wouldn't really excel as a student. So fair enough. I think more than the fact that I was securing good marks, I neared again about 60%. So I was a good student. But I think by the time I reached law, more than the academic aspect, I really enjoyed the journey. I really enjoyed the process of reading, interacting with teachers. Luckily, all our teachers were very helpful. They would never, not entertain your queries outside of the classroom. They were approachable. I think I would consider myself pretty lucky. So by law, I think academics or the marks kind of took slight backseat in the sense, in terms of importance. But the process itself, the process of learning and education, I really enjoyed. And I think that's what all of us should do.
Right. Did you participate in any moot court competitions or any client counseling competitions?
No, in fact, I think that is one part of the professional journey I kind of missed because I was anyway juggling with a pretty hectic schedule where I would kind of, do my chartered accountancy articleship in the morning, then rush back for the evening classes. So a lot of the practical learning part I missed during when I was pursuing my law. But yes, I did, whatever within the realms of I could afford. I would be, regularly interacting with a lot of my teachers, lawyers, people who I knew from within the industry to get a lot of practical exposure. But I do kind of, now when I see and when I go to judge a lot of moot court competition, I kind of understand how much of a hustle it would be to spend weeks in preparation and then, that positive anticipation of what's going to happen. I think I miss that part. I do miss that part. Yeah.
Right. So, sir, would you say that you had a trouble finding your calling? Because you said that you were following an unconventional path, which was neither this side nor that side. So would you say that you had a trouble finding a calling of your own?
So it's interesting, Muskan, when I was filling up the chartered accountancy forms, one of the questions over there was, why did you choose to become a chartered accountant? Okay. So I was half tempted to write because my mother wanted me to be a chartered accountant. It's true. It was her dream for me to become a chartered accountant. So I'm glad I fulfilled that. I wouldn't say I had struggled finding my feet. I would say I was very lucky that I could find the right path and the right people met me in my life. I started my journey because I had completed my CA at that time. So I started my journey as a accounts manager in a in a very small ad agency where it was very typical accounts like kind of a work which is there. I enjoyed my stint for about a year, but each time I would see certain rent agreements or lease agreements which was not my part of duty because I was pretty much only from the accounts department. I was so tempted to read them and give them my views, ki theek nahi ho raha hai, something, but it wasn't a part of my duty. So eventually, that kind of the dissatisfaction came about that I want to do something which gives me, along with accounts and finance, a little bit more exposure to what I learned in law. That is when I met my mentor, Bitika Anand, who is the founder and CEO of Legal League Consulting. I met her because she was hiring at that time for a few law firms. And, when I met her, it was just one round of interview and she placed me in one of the largest, most renowned IP firms of the country, Lal and Sethi. And Mr. Chandralal, who's now a senior advocate, is the first person who mentored me under his wings. There was a 360-degree personality change because I was to work with him, see him how he's managing his life with so much of technology. He's a fitness freak. He's always bubbling with energy. So that rubbed me. I from someone who was a typical accountant of 92 kgs, I was that obese with a lot of not so healthy habits in terms of eating and working out. To then undergoing, while I was working with them, a 360-degree personality change, getting into fitness, getting a lot of, getting exposure in terms of technology, how a law firm is managed, what can you do, how can you use technology to make your work better. I think the grooming that I got in Lal and Sethi was unprecedented. And once I kind of felt that I've done my bit over here, set all the systems and processes, and, now the organization pretty much works on an autopilot mode, is when I met Bitika Anand again. And she was gracious enough to then eventually say that, okay, you know what, come work with me. And the journey from there just is, I wouldn't say historic. It's too much of a laudatory word to say, but I think there's growth every day. There is new work to do every day. You're meeting so many different managing partners, lawyers with different personalities, different managing styles. I think the kind of variety of work and people, work I've done and people I've met during these 8.5 years with Legal League Consulting is fabulous. It just transforms you because you're meeting and interacting with so many people.
Right. I can see the energy in you when you're speaking about this. It's just so powerful.
I know.
So, sir, I'm really curious about what is law firm management, because this is a word that I've heard for the first time. Like, this is a term that I've heard. And so, sir, what is it, and was it there before also? Like, since when did it start?
So, traditionally, what used to happen, Muskan, that all of our lawyers have been more from the old school. If you, a lot of people think that because हम लोग इतने अच्छे lawyers हैं, काम आएगा हमारे पास, हम काम लेने नहीं जाएंगे. That is one aspect which relates to, let's say, a practice development or building your brand. The other aspect, of course, relates to how your finances, revenues, billings are maintained, because at the end of it, we're all in a commercial venture. Yes, legal profession is a service. But when you run a law firm, when you run an organization, it's not just you. There are a lot of other people who are a part of that journey, who are a part of the law firm, whose livelihood and income and sustainability depends on how well the law firm does.
Right.
So people who take objection or take offense to when we say that, setting up a law firm is a business, fine, absolutely. I know it's a noble profession and we are here to serve people. But when you have an organization upon which livelihoods of several people are dependent, then you've got to have some systems and processes. That is what law firm management helps you do. So right from managing the most basic things like your billings, recoveries, finance, your HR policies, because what happens is when you have a team of, even if you have a team of 5 or 10 people, your policies can't discriminate from one from the another. So you have to have some basic systems and processes into place. Who's to be promoted when, who should be given what opportunities, what kind of working hours should the people observe. So it's not about putting policies, it's about setting some sort of a code of conduct, because you are you're working with a lot of human beings, and every human being interprets things very differently. So some sort of uniformity is a must when you run an organization. Law firm management helps you do that. Law firm management helps you tick each of those boxes, right from how should you grow, what should be a strategy of growth, how should you brand yourself, which new practice areas should you be exploring, do you need to explore other jurisdictions, if you're in one city, do you need to go to other cities. All of those strategic level decisions on the macro level, and all the implementation at the micro level is what law firm management comprises of. So if you ask me in a nutshell, all areas of operation, right from your basic admin issues to your HR issues to finance to growth strategy to branding and practice development or business development, as some people call it, it all encapsulates into business development, the law firm management bit. That is what law firm management actually is about.
This is really fascinating, sir. So how long would you say has been the emerging trend for this?
I would say over a decade now, because these concepts were there in West, in US and UK. There are foreign universities who give specializations and LLMs in legal practice management or law firm management. That concept hasn't yet come in India. Like, you would not have a formal degree or a formal education in legal practice management or law firm management. I wish we see the light of that day, and I mean, if I could do something about it, I'd be more than willing to do it. But right now, what I have been doing for last 2 years is spread a lot of awareness about this field of law. Because if you see, I would say in the concept, of course, has evolved for over a decade now. But in the last about 5 years, you see so many different opportunities for lawyers, which are the non-traditional fields. There is legal journalism that is picked up. There is legal process outsourcing. There is legal tech. There is a lot of fields which are allied to the legal field, but
Even
not
legal
traditional
design,
practice
sir.
of law.
Something
Exactly.
like legal
So,
design.
yeah. So, the publications, the journalism bit, the designing bit, the social media presence, the content creation. I mean, I would, for a law firm or for a lawyer, if you are supposed to generate a content, you would not get a content writer or a content creator on board who would not know what law is. So legal content generation itself has become a huge field. More and more people want to be, because of the restrictions also. See, law firms can't just go out there and market themselves. So the best source of branding for a law firm or a lawyer is to create a perception through the content that they create.
Right.
That is why content has become more and more important in the coming times. So, I think the very fact that there is so much out available, and all of this is somewhere or the other related to the legal practice management or law firm management field. So last 5 years, there's a huge awareness, but there is a lot more that needs to be done. Many students still don't know that there is a career field exists like these.
Right.
They don't know that they can be hired by firms to manage their businesses, manage their practice, grow their practice. A lot of my friends have now eventually, who I know, even young students who have absolute clarity that this is what they're going to be making their careers into. But a lot of them still don't know. If you ask a lawyer, क्या करना है आपको आगे जाके, उनका एक ही जवाब आएगा, litigation या तो corporate. उनको ये भी distinction इतना नहीं पता है कि litigation and corporate के भी हर practice area में अलग-अलग realms हैं. You can do a tax litigation, you can do IP litigation, you can do get into media laws, which is basically nothing but a culmination of several laws which becomes a media and entertainment practice. So awareness wise, मुझे लगता है, there's a lot that needs to be done, and that is one of the reasons I'm engaging with students more and more, kind of every possible platform. The more and more people hear this, if I'm able to just tell people, भाई legal field में बहुत कुछ है करने के लिए, ये एक universe है अपने आप में, come explore it and be happy about it.
Right. So, sir, anybody who is in law school right now, how would they discover these fields, and like, how would you recommend that they discover these fields?
See, first of all, though, Muskan, a message out there to all the students: when you are in law school, it's good to read your books and your bare acts. It's very good, and that you're diligent in attending your lectures and classes. Good to do your homework. And I know you guys are also leading a tough life out there. But all my request to all the students is, if you really want to develop your personality overall and not just become, a lawyer is a good lawyer is a good lawyer, not only because a lawyer knows the law pretty well. That's a basic requirement ना. एक सर्जन को अगर सर्जरी करनी नहीं आएगी तो वो फिर डॉक्टर ही नहीं, एक सर्जन कहलाएगा ही नहीं ना. तो आपको लॉ में निपुण होना पड़ेगा, वो तो कोई that there is no question mark about it. What I also urge all the law students is start developing the habit of going beyond law. इंडस्ट्री सेक्टर में क्या हो रहा है, इकोनॉमी में क्या हो रहा है, ट्रेंड्स क्या चल रहे हैं, ये जब आप पढ़ोगे, इसका जब आप एप्लीकेशन देखोगे कि हम एक तो है बेयर एक्ट पढ़ना, एक है क्या हो रहा है इकोनॉमी में. अगर आप आईबीसी की बात करते हो तो आईबीसी में विच ट्रेंड्स क्या चल रहे हैं, रियल लाइफ में क्या हो रहा है. गेट इनटू द हैबिट ऑफ रीडिंग द न्यूज, ऑथेंटिक न्यूज, एंड देन ट्रेस इट बैक टू व्हाट यू आर स्टडीइंग. अगर आप आईपीआर पढ़ रहे हो, आपने कॉपीराइट पढ़ा है और आपको कुछ डिस्प्यूट्स पता चल रहे हैं that सम फिल्म और सम सॉन्ग में प्लेगरिज्म का कॉन्सेप्ट है या किसी ने कॉपी कर लिया कुछ, ट्रेस इट बैक, देन ट्रेस इट बैक कि जो मैं पढ़ रहा हूँ इसका लीगल जो मैंने पढ़ा है वो कहाँ पे अप्लाई हो रहा है. when you merge the commercial aspects with legal aspects, that is when I feel you're a true lawyer. So that is one part. Read up about things. As far as coming to law firm management, to what your question related was, awareness. Step 1. जब भी आप सीनियर से डील करते हो, इंटरैक्ट करते हो, जब आप लॉ फर्म्स में जाते हो, one part is when you are doing your internships is to go, mark your attendance, do the work that's given to you, come back. Good, diligent student. How many times have you tried to politely ask your seniors or people who you're interning with to have a 5-minute conversation and just generally seek their experiences of how the field has been to them, what are the areas of interest. जब आप लोगों से बात करते हो, जब आप when you come out of that shell and start interacting with people, that is when they will be able to teach you or tell you which no law firm or no course or no curriculum can tell you, because they are talking out of practical experience. तो अगर आपको law firm management में इंटरेस्ट है, अगर आप अवेयर हो इसके बारे में तो पढ़िए. यूके यूएस में कितने आर्टिकल्स हैं, कितनी वेबसाइट्स हैं जो डेडिकेटेड हैं इसके ऊपर. एज इंटरनेशनल इज वन ऑफ द ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस who we have a strategic alliance with at Legally Consulting, and they were at one time being ranked as the top 3 consultancies to law firms in the US. So there are several organizations out there who put up great content. Read about it. Within India, read what changes are happening in the law firm management side. And when you are interning with law firms, and if you're applying for internships, try and actually apply for internships in law firm management, either with the organizations or tell them that you want to intern. If you are good at content, if you think that you want to learn practice development, then your internship application should say that, and put forth what you've done. So I think agar is field mein you want to get into, you should step 1 be aware, step 2 find the right contacts, step 3 try and procure internships in this area, because until unless you try, something may look very fascinating from the outside. Until unless you've done it, you would not really know the practical experience of kind of how much do you like that work or not. So definitely try and procure internships in that, and then take a call whether you think you're cut for this or not.
Right. So if you would say that India may, if you want to pursue, maybe have a career in law firm management, then it includes both management and studying law. So do you recommend that somebody does BBA, LLB, or whatever? What do you think should be the right career, like the course path?
Yes. If you studied the concepts of management, of course it helps, because then there is one skill set added to your profile, and which skill set is relevant to what you want to do. So I've been asked this question the other day. One of my friends who's been in law for a few years asked me that should I go in for an MBA? So I said, why MBA after practicing law for like 4 or 5 years? And then he's like, no, because eventually, and I said MBA makes sense if you want to change your field and then get into law firm management. And he said, yes, I think I've been pretty much active on the IP space, and let's say an IP law firm especially, there's a lot of management part involved into it. You have to manage deadlines, you have to manage software, you have to manage client communication, which is a lot to how strong and robust your systems are and operations are, for that matter. So if anybody who thinks that they can make a career in this and they want to make a career in this, having an MBA or a BBA will definitely help, but that is not the only prerequisite. I think some of the things come to you when you have a flair for them naturally. be it public speaking, be it branding, be it creativity, be it the legal publication or content creation part. If you have a flair for it, if you write well, if you think you can speak well, legal teaching. Sorry, how could we forget? A lot of people and lawyers are now also, sometimes a lot of them go back to their colleges to teach. So
Right.
if you have a flair for that, then of course follow the traditional path. But I would say, as I said at the beginning of the interview, Muskan, follow the instinct. Follow the instinct. Your instinct would not go wrong in telling you what you're enjoying doing and what you're not enjoying doing. Please do not do anything in law to kind of match up to what your friends are doing. If they've kind of gotten to a tier 1 firm, or if they've gotten an in-house job, just because they have done it, do not chalk your career trajectory based on what your friends are doing. I mean, please go find your own niche and follow the instinct. That's what I would say.
So everybody has their own journey with law. It's not just that a straight path for everybody. You just have to make your own journey. You have to understand law. It's just like a friend of yours that you have to understand better. So,
Absolutely. Very well said.
so sir, you were talking about social media and social media presence, and I think a lot of people know you from LinkedIn and many other places. So, sir, so what do you think that is the requirement of social media right now, and how to make a social media presence?
Social media, again, the example that you gave for a friend, Muskan, pretty relevant, because I tell people that when we meet someone interesting in our lives, a lot of times we connect with relatives or friends or acquaintances, and we find someone's personality very interesting. It's a natural thing. We'll go and search that person on social media. We'd like to connect, talk a bit more. It's pretty much applicable like that when you are in the commercial world. Let's say you've met a person who may engage with you on a professional terms, or may want to hire your services in future. If you've not, if you do not have, and you are good in your conversation, you have left that first impression, but the person wants to go back and search about you online as to what your credentials are, what your professional journey looks like. He goes on LinkedIn or any of those social media platforms or web presence for that matter, finds nothing about you. What impression do you get? क्या ये तो सिर्फ बात ही कर रहा था, मेरे को तो ऑनलाइन मैंने ढूंढा, ये तो मुझे कहीं मिल ही नहीं रहा. So I would not say that social media presence is the be all and end all of it, but a strong social media presence augments your real personality. That's one is virtual personality, one is real personality. When you're meeting people, you can showcase your real personality. But in a challenging time like today, when people do not have much time to always go and meet people, or even after when the times that we are witnessing today because of the physical restriction of the movement because of the pandemic, then having an online personality has become much more important, because people would like to visit you online, see the kind of issues you're talking about, see how are you showcasing your expertise, what kind of content you're writing, what kind of abilities you're showcasing through your virtual personality. So it's an extension of your being to the virtual world, and I think it's absolutely important because it leaves an impression. It augments what somebody may have a perception about you. But if you have a strong online personality, if you're making noise about right issues, then I think you kind of prolonging your impression on the other person. Like if I proclaim that tax is my field, I'm very passionate about tax, I'm tracking every development, I know what's happening in the tribunals, but when somebody visits my profile and there's nothing I've mentioned about tax and only my designation and my name and my profile, the person will be like, kuch bhi to hai nahi, like how the presence is like. So I feel social media has to augment your real personality.
Right. So, what are the things that you would want to change maybe in your social media? What do you like about your social media presence right now?
I really wish that I could get more time. I do dedicate a few hours every week to ensure that I put up something out there in terms of thoughts that I have when I'm working. I think the other day I was one of my client friends told me as a favor that I'm planning to hire somebody, but normally I would not do that. The sifting through the profiles job, because I want your personal opinion on a few profiles. So please go shortlist, see. So I was like, okay, fine. For a friend, I would of course do it. With friend come client, I would do that. And when I saw the profiles, then kind of it hit me back then that there is so much people still need to know out there in terms of what they should do about their social media. You can't have factually incorrect things written in your CV vis-a-vis your profiles. So there was a practical learning which I put back in the form of a post. So whatever I kind of gather while I'm working, I kind of put it back and give it back to the fraternity because I want people to know. If any student or any practicing lawyer gets benefited from what I'm experiencing, I would find my social media to be very successful if I'm able to change even a few lives. So what I love about my social media is this fact that I'm connecting to so many young law aspirants, young students, bright students. I mean, Muskan, look at you. You're doing this talk show. I would not even imagine doing in my journey as a lawyer or when I was a student. So I think it's getting me to meet some really interesting personalities. I have a bunch of friends who are way younger than me, way brighter than me, and they teach me something or the other. So I think I am blessed, so to say, that I'm connected with so many people with bubbling energy. What I'd like to improve in my social media is that if I could be little more regular, like I see so many people putting stuff out there pretty regularly. I'm a huge fan of Tariq, who does a great amount of work. He's done some really fabulous work on the arbitration side. Amish is doing interesting, bites on Instagram, and those are very bite-sized videos, and it's so much packed with practical stuff. Jayant, I've not had the interaction, the fortune of interacting with him so far. I would love to do that, but I'm a huge admirer of what he's
how
doing.
much your views match with Jayant sir's. Actually, when I was talking to you about social media presence, about how when you're studying you should have your own path and everything. It was actually, the thing is that the things you were saying were really mirroring Jayant sir's. It was really beautiful to just see that how two people haven't even met each other but share the same views.
Yeah, so I'm a huge admirer of the work that he's doing out there. And there are a lot others. I mean, I'm sure I'm forgetting a few names, but these are all, I call them candidly, like Tariq, I always, I would mess. So, all of us need to be together to help the next layer come in and find their feet firm on the ground. So a lot of those people out there are putting some great content. I wish I could be slightly more regular, but unfortunately, the work commitments are such that I'm not getting that much time. But yes, I will try and be definitely more regular and coming up with some good cutting edge content over there.
Right.
Which
so
is
we
helping me.
much awaiting that. So, sir, actually, what do you think about the technology, and what do you think about the situation right now in India relating to technology, and also that how could it be improved, or like what is the situation right now in reality?
Tech, Muskan. So my exposure to tech goes back to almost a decade now, because when I was in Alan Sethi, they were the first paperless firm who switched completely paperless while I was there. People, my mentor, Mr. Chandalal, used to carry the files in an iPad way back then, talking 10 years back. So he was like, he was combining technology to responsibility towards environment. He would operate those battery cars and kind of save fuel. So he was a visionary. He could achieve the goal of being paperless, and it actually happened in front of my eyes. A firm that is doing both IP prosecution and litigation goes paperless completely. It was a huge leap of faith, but paid pretty well. So my exposure to technology goes way back at that time when we were designing a system in-house. All the system to monitor deadlines in intellectual property is very important. Intellectual property is a ball game of deadlines. You miss a deadline, you miss a right. So deadlines, etc., are much more and much cumbersome to maintain when you are in an IP firm that has huge portfolios of trademarks, patents, copyrights, running into several thousands, and you are managing big brands, MNCs, several trademarks, several brands. So the kind of management part becomes cumbersome if you were to do it manually on an Excel sheet, for that matter. I mean, I can't even fathom doing that. So the software were designed in-house by Mr. Lal himself, and of course the entire team. They were in-house IT people who were working on that project. And then I saw that being simulated by a lot of firms. So yes, technology plays a very important part because they are making your lives easier.
Right.
They are making your dependence on human error. They are minimizing the dependence on human error a lot. But two things which we need to keep in mind is, again, one basic principle of technology: garbage in, garbage out. If you're feeding in something wrong, you're going to get wrong results.
Right.
So I think this whole debate of technology versus human, I don't see any reason or rationale for it, because I think technology is here to support humans or
Right.
augment what humans can achieve, not to replace them.
Right.
So even to operate a good software or a good system or a good machine, you will need humans, because to feed the right data so that you get the right results. Point one. Point two, certain things, for example, let's say litigation. The kind of research you do, the kind of strategy you come up with, the kind of code craft you want is something that only a human can come up with. No machine or no mode of artificial intelligence can replace what a human can achieve in the court of law. So please, I mean, those who are always fearful of the fact that technology is out there to take away people's jobs, I don't think that's true. If you feel that you are threatened by technology, that means you need to upgrade your skill set. There's a lot out there which you can achieve. So if you're getting threatened by technology, use it as a positive way. Find it as take it as an opportunity that you need to upgrade. If this work can be done by technology and I'm becoming redundant, I need to think of 5 steps, 10 steps ahead. Or what is it that I need to do more so that I'm irreplaceable, or I make myself indispensable.
Right.
That is what should be the attitude, I think.
Right. Wow. So, sir, so let's talk about internships now. So I was thinking that you have so not even law internships, whatever internships that you've done, what did you do in them that was really productive and helped you in your career in the future?
Internships is a very touchy topic, Muskan, because there is this side of the table and then there is that side of the table. This side of the table is when I was an intern. So what I did was diligent, jitna kaam milta tha, kar leta tha. And of course, my articleships and internships were kind of different because there was CA being happening simultaneously and law happening simultaneously. So I was diligent, again for the lack of time and because of the juggling of too much which I was handling at that time. I could have done better in my internships. I think, but at that time, the focus was to sustain myself mentally and physically both, to ensure that, and it wasn't like the resources that that are available today were not that readily available back then.
Right.
So I think I did fairly well as an intern. Yes, what I did was, as I said, practical part. I would not only rely on books. So even when I was practicing as an pursuing my articleship in the CA or law, I would always ask my the people who I was working under the right questions for practical aspect. It was never that I'm going to only rely on books. I had the habit of kind of asking them, how is this applicable? How is this relevant? What more do I need to do? So I think, contrary to the fact that it only has to be limited to the proposition you are given to research upon, I think my internships were pretty conversational. I don't know whether in how much of that you can afford when you're interning under somebody, because not many people are they entertain those kind of queries also. But I was lucky that people who I interned under, I would always ask the questions and I would get the answers. I think the interaction part and the very fact that I'm conversational by nature, like I keep asking questions. I have this not to the extent of nagging or irritating people, but yes, like I don't see myself just putting my head down and only working. I don't think I'm cut out for that. So this side of the table went okay because of the interaction bit. That side of the table, when there were people and students interning, not, I would not say under me, but for a lot of firms I handle internships.
Mhm.
That has been such a learning experience, Muskan. I can't even begin to tell you. I have had interns who have left an impression from day one, purely because of their positive approach, purely because of their zeal to do something interesting in the field of law. I have some of my best friends today, and I genuinely mean best friends, are the ones who at one point had interned under me. They're like my besties
Wow.
now. So that is again one part of learning. And then there are people who I see like they just grew in front of my eyes. Like ऐसे लगता नहीं बच्चे थे अभी, and then I see them, you know, as founder of an initiative, running their own independent organizations, then calling me to say, listen, please come and judge this initiative we have started.
Wow.
And I was like, when did you grow up so fast? So handling internships for a lot of firms has given me so many of mixed emotions, that of being a friend, being, you know, just feeling like a parent to see the children grow in front of your eyes. Of course, handling their queries. A lot of times I go up to students and, you know, people who are interning under my wing, I would tell them that, you know, if you face any issue, if you face any harassment, if you face any, you know, problem, I am there for you guys. You need to approach me and I'm going to take care of your issues. So, you know, establishing that trust factor, a lot of people have come up and, you know, sometimes there have been one intern harassing the other intern. There have been cases where two interns actually physically hit each other, you know, outside the office premises. So you handle so much, you kind of see this completely different side of students and interns, but it's also tremendous amount of learning. And yes, of course, then there are other kind of interns who would like call you up at like 7:30 in the morning on a Sunday saying मेरी internship application का क्या हुआ, and I'm like, please भाई Sunday है, please रहम कर लो थोड़ा सा, कल बात कर लेंगे. Heavens are not falling. So I understand where the students are coming from. I mean, and I maybe I take this platform to apologize if I've kind of, you know, lost my lid over something, but please understand we're also humans. We are trying our best. We get so many applications to process on a single day. We get so many calls to entertain on a single day. So please bear with us because we are trying to make things facilitate for you, but it can't always be that, you know, this is the only thing that we can keep working on. So if I've kind of hurt anyone or offended anyone inadvertently, my apologies out there.
So sweet of you. So let's talk about mentorship now. You've been really proud of your mentors, and so how do you think that mentorship actually affects a person, and you know, to shape a person and everything? So, and how do I find my mentor?
You need to interact with the right people, Muskan. And when I say the right people, of course, you will keep interacting. See with the person with whom your vibe matches the best. See the person who would not mince words to tell you this is right or this is wrong. And you do need mentors and coaches and guides in your life because sometimes you may be, you know, on the crossroad thinking what is right and what's wrong. I am super proud of both my mentors because I think Mr. Lal played a great role in my personality change and the way I used to think. One thing he taught me was audacity. कि अगर तुम कुछ सही कर रहे हो या कुछ सही बोल रहे हो, then you should have the courage to talk about it.
Right.
There's a great line of difference in audacity and being rude. So he taught me that balance. He taught me that fine line. So I think audacity is something that I picked from him. Of course, he's be like, never shut down a voice if somebody wants to suggest a change, if somebody is coming up with positive views, always listen. उनको यूज करने के नहीं करना वो तुम्हारा प्रोरोगेटिव है, बट किसी की आवाज को शट मत करो. ये उनका प्रिंसिपल था. सेकंड प्रिंसिपल व्हिच ही टॉट मी वाज absolute honesty. And imagine, this is hilarious. This was on the day of my interview because I was taking up the position of accounts, administration, HR. There's a lot of responsibility that was coming my way. So he told me only one thing in my induction, so to say, induction interview, that say, Jo, because, you know, notorious hote hain, accounts people and finance people are notorious because they have means and resources. So a lot of times corruption and, you know, those little embezzlement could be tracked down to them. So he was apprehensive. So he was giving me this first words of wisdom during my induction that घपला ₹1 का भी हो सकता है और 1 करोड़ का भी हो सकता है. But at the end of it, वो रुपए का हो या करोड़ का, वो घपला ही है. तो अगर तुम्हारा ईमान खराब ₹1 के लिए हुआ है या 1 करोड़ के लिए हुआ है, तो मैं ये नहीं देखूंगा कि whether you have done something for a rupee or for a crore. The very fact that you're doing something dishonest is going to put me off. And it made an impact. I was always I'm a God-fearing person. I'm a law-abiding person, and I want to keep my checks in place. So the vibe matched. ये व्यक्ति भी वैसे ही सोच रहे जैसे मैं सोच रहा हूँ कि dishonesty है तो dishonesty है, वो रुपए की भी है, वो करोड़ की भी है. So I think vibe matched. That is when I could figure out that okay, this is the person I need to look up to. I can't work with someone I can't look up to. And Ritika ma'am, who's now who's my boss for now almost 8.5 years, and I've never called her my boss. She's my friend. She could go up, I could go up to her and share all my secrets with her. And she's cool. We have partied. We have kind of spoken about everything under the sun. She's a guide. She's always somebody who gave absolute freedom. अच्छा ये तुमको ये काम करना है, go ahead and do it. Never for once would think कि ये मेरे बारे में बात नहीं हो रही है या I should need to be involved in this. She has given so much of creative freedom. She is kind of given so much of charge to take care of legally consulting. So I think it's very important to find people with whom your vibe matches. अगर आप लोग same तरीके से सोच रहे हो, अगर आप लोगों के principles और ethos same हैं, ethos same होना बहुत जरूरी है. A lot of my friends also for that matter, मुस्कान, अगर मुझे लगता है कि इस इंसान का ethos मेरे से मैच नहीं कर रहा है, इसके principles करेक्ट नहीं है, तो eventually एक point of time के बाद वो friendship dwindle हो जाती है, because आप उस person से identify नहीं कर सकते हो. मतलब one principle I keep telling all, I mean, it sounds a little filmy, but I tell them pretty often that if I do not respect you as a person, I can't respect you as a friend. So एक अच्छा दोस्त होने के लिए एक अच्छा इंसान होना भी बहुत जरूरी है. एटलीस्ट मेरे केस में वो डेफिनेटली है. तो अगर मैं एज एन इंसान तुम्हें पसंद कर सकता हूँ, तब मैं एज अ दोस्त तुमको पसंद कर सकता हूँ. वो मेरा थॉट है. यही चीज keep in mind for your mentor when you're choosing a mentor. Your ethos should match, otherwise it won't work. And choose a person who will tell you, चाहे प्यार से समझाए चाहे डांट से समझाए, बट अगर तुम गलत हो तो जस्ट वैसा मेंटर भी तो नहीं चाहिए ना जो कि तुम बोलो अच्छा ये करना है हाँ कर लो, ये करना है हाँ कर लो. नहीं, mentor should be able to tell you what you're doing is correct or not. A mentor or a coach, see, they can't change your circumstances. They can help you, nudge you to find the right answers which lie within you. That choice will be yours, but they will only help you reach the right decision by nudging, questioning, kind of helping you reach the right decision. That is what mentoring and coaching is all about.
Right. So should you like everything in your mentor? Like from A to Z, everything? There is nothing that you could not like or just like hate or something?
See, you may have difference of opinions. You may disagree on a few things, which is there, which is but natural, but which is what happens in a family also. Like, let's say our parents or our siblings. ऐसा नहीं that we like all things in them. Like sometimes there could be disagreement or, but see the ratio of it. I mean, here is a person who's helping me, guiding me. Few things I may not agree with him, but out of respect or out of, the sheer, sometimes you have to only discount. And I keep telling this to myself when I'm interacting with someone senior and I'm not 100% in alignment with the views. I say कि यार at the end of it मुझे ये discount देना कि वो मेरे से बड़े हैं, उनको मेरे से ज़्यादा experience है, मेरे से ज़्यादा exposure है, तो sheer by that logic, I would kind of be okay. So you may not like everything in your mentor, but see the ratio. If you are disliking 80% and liking 20%, I'm sorry, then it won't work. But if you are liking 80% and there is 20% stuff that you don't like, take it with a pinch of salt. Right. That's happened with our friends, with our families as well.
Right. So if we talk about, let's say things that you would want to change in your life that you've done till now, so what would those things will be?
Things that I would like to change in my life. As I said, I think had I had little more time in hand in terms of when I was doing my law, I would have chosen, I think, more internships, moot court competitions, extracurricular activities. So I think that is one aspect I kind of missed, because I should have, I felt I could, given my personality, I would have been more outgoing back then, but I didn't get a chance to do that. So that is one thing I think I would like to change. Apart from that, honestly, Muskan, I'm very content person. मुझे ज़्यादा चीज़ों से dissatisfaction नहीं होती है मेरी life में. I think I have done fine so far, done well so far. It's not that you know, I'm satisfied to a level where I don't want to achieve anything in life, but I think I'm any which way always looking for brighter aspects of life. And I don't say this to sound very cool about it, but that's how generally I am. Like, I have not till date faced Monday morning blues. A lot of people keep cribbing about it, but I feel my hands are itchy when I do not touch my laptop for a while or don't see what's happening around in the fraternity, in the industry. So I think I'm generally somebody who looks for happier aspects in life.
Yeah.
I choose to feel happy, because I'm also not many people know, for last 1.5, 2 years, I've been following avidly about law of attraction, which kind of tells you to, you know, go choose better feeling thoughts, and your thoughts can actually change your circumstances. Yes. So I think that has played a very, very important part. So I don't think I don't want to change many things. Yes, I would perhaps change only the fact that I could have been slightly more outgoing when I was pursuing law. That I think that part I missed, because now when I see students doing so much, I think I could have done slightly more in terms of, you know, using those golden years of my life when I was 15. That's what I feel.
So actually thinking about the, back, the past is always going to be, you're always going to have some regrets. But if you look at the future, there are always going to be more things for you in the future than you have missed in the past.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what tells you that you can't recreate? Like today, if you enroll in a course, today if you, there's so much out there available to even pursue online. You are back as a student, and then what I am thinking that, things that I've missed doing in that time, I could do them today. So again, I think you've rightly summed it up. Your future would definitely have many more opportunities than your past. Instead of regretting, if you have a bucket list, if you think, like, if I think that, I could have participated more in the mood courts or some competition or extracurricular activities, world's a stage. I mean, I can still draw my own list, which I do, by the way, and kind of keep ticking off as and when they happen.
So do you have any bucket lists or something things that you want to do?
Yes, absolutely. Lots of it. I mean, at one point in time, I want to become a life coach, a spiritual coach. And by spiritual coach, I don't mean, the religious Babaji type. A spiritual coach is, since law of attraction has changed a lot in my life, I want, again, the message to go out and reach as many people as it can. So I want to take a formal education as a coach. I want to start coaching. I want to start eventually, if everything goes well, maybe a publication, get more cutting edge stuff in the management consulting domain, help law firms and lawyers grow, get involved with more student initiatives. My bucket list on the professional side is bubbling. I mean, I'm pretty sure that every day one or the other desire gets added to it, and of course I'm achieving many more. I wanted to be involved a lot with students. By the grace of God, that's happened. I wanted to make the right noise about the field that I'm in, legal practice management. I think through my social media and through, like, mediums like your initiative, I'm able to do that, and I'm pretty thankful for it. So on the professional side, this is what the checklist is. On personal side, yes, there's the entire world out there. I want to travel, I want to chill, I want to make good friends, good connections. I think I'm somebody who's a very firm believer in relationships and friendships. I have a close-knit circle of my friends, but they are my life. I would really, so just one piece of personal information. Okay. I kind of, being the emotional being that I am, as I said, I value relationships a lot. Family and friends are something that I feel give stability to a human being. They keep you sane in the most insane moments of your life. They are the ones who keep you grounded. So as a mark of my tribute, my ode, or what I feel for them, I have 2 tattoos on my wrists. One says Kautum, which is the family relationship, and one says Sakhya, which means friendship. So both my wrists have Sakhya and Kautum, which is, which kind of sums up my life to say family and friends.
If you don't mind, can I see it?
Yes, yes. This is what is Kautum, which is family,
Right.
and this is what is Sakhya, which says friends.
Wow, beautiful, sir. And having them on their wrist is the most beautiful thing ever because so close to,
Because it's always in front of my eyes. So, keeps me reminded that there's an entire, wave of energy, good meaning people, good wishing people, people who you have strong bonds with. Those are the people who are keeping you going today. So I think that is what is important.
Right. So thank you so much, sir, for being on the show. I think this couldn't have been a better end to the show. So thank you for coming here and thank you for coming on such a small show right now. And I hope that everybody who has come here has taken a lot from this because I personally have taken a lot. So thank you, sir.
Thanks to you, Muskan. I mean, again, as I said, I'm not saying this because I'm on your platform talking right now. I told you in person also that I've been following all the interviews you've taken so far, all the interactions you've done so far. Absolutely, your energy is definitely palpable. I'm very happy for the initiative. I'm happy for each initiative that every law student kind of takes, because no initiative is small. Thanks to all of you and you, Muskan, because you guys are keeping the wheel of growth in motion. When you guys come up with great new initiatives, you are bridging the gap between those who have achieved something in their life, who are at a more stable position, with those who want to achieve something in life. And a lot of times you need that hand holding, you need that level of comfort. So I am thankful to you and I wish you all the best. By no means is this platform small, as you mentioned. This is a huge reach. You are doing some fabulous work, and I only wish you all the best. A lot of my good wishes, blessings to you, and it is definitely a pleasure for me to be on your platform, and I really wish all the students out there come out, start new initiatives, be active part of the fraternity. We are a close-knit family. We need to be together. We need to come together for a lot of good causes to spread a lot of awareness. So those who are out there who want to start something new, Muskan is your kind of, source of inspiration. Go for it and start without any hitch.
If anybody who wants to connect with Lawgears to do anything that they want, even make videos, come on the show, have your own shows or something like that. So I'm wholly and, purely there, and you can find my LinkedIn down there and you can contact me and we can work this through. So thank you so much for coming here, sir. And,